All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Anushuya Thapa, and I'm Bay Nature's editorial fellow for this year. It's my first ever Local Hero Awards, and therefore it is doubly my honor to be presenting an award today. I will be introducing our 2024 Conservation Action Hero, Kellyx Nelson. Kellyx truly embodies action. As the executive director of the San Mateo County Resource Conservation District, RCDs are special districts made by the state to support other conservation actors. She's been doing this for 18 years, not a second of which, by the way, has gone to waste. She's overseen dozens of dam removals, restored miles and miles of creeks and wetlands, all of which have protected important habitat for vulnerable creatures like steelhead salmon and red-legged frogs. Kellyx has led, too, by action. When she joined the RCD, it was a small office. No staff, scarce projects, and little in the way of funding. But she helped build a team of now 26 conservationists just like her that have tackled some of the thorniest problems in our region. I'll give you the example of Pescadero Marsh, a restoration project that every other restoration agency before hers had written off as impossible. Too many jurisdictions, too many stakeholders. But it was Kellyx and her team that made it happen. They brought actors to the table and got people willing to talk, willing to listen, and willing to act. But what makes Kellyx a hero isn't just what she's done, it's also the fact that she's forging a path for others to do the same. In 2019, she founded the Cutting Green Tape Initiative. It's brought together federal agencies, nonprofits, and perhaps many of you here in this room, all to find new ways to simplify old regulations, to cut across bureaucracy, and to get things done. So thank you, Kellyx, for your conservation action, but also for making conservation action an easier task for all of us. Please join me in welcoming our 2024 local hero, Kellyx Nelson.
Wow, hello you beautiful people. It's a very welcoming room for me because I stocked it with all my people. Anushuya, that was a really heartwarming welcome. Thank you. And thank you to Bay Nature for your beautiful publication that has incredible images and inspiration and in-depth articles that connect us all to these lands that we love and elevate our practice generally. And thanks for creating this forum for all of us to celebrate and come together. And it's a tremendous honor to share this podium today with these other conservation heroes. I feel very lucky to be part of this. And Yakuta, who I think is a shining light. I called Yakuta after I Googled how to accept an award. And it said, say thank you, so thank you. And it say that you're honored. I feel very honored. And then it didn't say what to do about that panic, so I called Yakuta, and I was like, what about if I give a speech about you and you give a speech about me? Because I could talk about her for days. So thanks for talking me down from the ledge for that. And also, can we just talk about this artistic interpretation of me? You may have noticed that I have one shoe untied. I'm like, who knew? And so I asked a bunch of people about it, and they're all like, yeah, that tracks. So anyway, now back to my professional self. Let's see. How does this work? Am I doing it right? There we go. I am lucky, lucky, lucky. I get to do what I love. What I love to do matters. And I get paid for it. And here today, I'm being told that I'm good at it. We should all be so lucky. And Spider and Cricket, my children, my son Spider, my daughter Cricket, this is what I want for you. I was born in 1970. My dad, who flew out from the East Coast for this event, thanks, Dad. He had a parenting philosophy that went like this. Here is a forest, and it has a creek, and over there is a lake. See you at dinner time. And so I grew up essentially feral. Today, the term of art is free-range parenting, and there are books on it. And oops. In the 1970s, the technical term that we used was childhood. So my dad spent magical childhood summers in the 1940s and 50s on a lake in Canada with a cabin accessible only by boat. Norman Rockwell couldn't make this stuff up. And so he made sure that my childhood was full of unstructured, unfettered outdoor play. Imagine my surprise in the mid-1980s, now living in New York City, for me to discover that others did not grow up trespassing for days on end, building forts in trees and logs and caves, scrambling over dams to see what kind of trouble they could get into, digging holes to China, and catching all sorts of unfortunate wild critters and otherwise obligating themselves to a future career in conservation to mitigate for their youthful endeavors. So when I did discover this truth that not everyone was raised the way that I did, so began a 14-year career in environmental education for me, connecting kids and communities to the transformative experiences that only nature offers, whether it's in a city park or out in the wilderness. There were also a few dalliances that largely involved delivering stuff via trucks and motorcycles that we can talk about, those career blips and the reception afterwards. And then I made the move about 23 years ago to focus directly on the land itself, instead of all those people. And what did I find? 18 years yesterday was my anniversary at the RCD. And what did I find is that it's still all about the people. People live, work, and play on these lands and actively manage them. People who protect open spaces, many of you here, I saw you walking in, Brian. People who study biodiversity and climate change and do the essential science. People who grow the food and the lumber that we consumers need, who are managing those lands. People who maintain the roads and highways and bridges that cross over the rivers and land and are managing our land. Environmental advocates and naturalists, the workers who operate the equipment to do the restoration projects that are in our magazines. Environmental advocates and naturalists, I mentioned them, the indigenous stewards who persist despite near eradication of their people and they're trying to find their traditional ways. The volunteers and the boards of directors for all of our organizations, the philanthropists, the voters, and the taxpayers who support conservation, they're people. And this understanding is what brought me to resource conservation districts, or RCDs. These little engines that could, these forms of local government, are the best form of local government that you've never heard of, or many of you haven't. RCDs were created in the 1930s. There are nearly 100 of us in California from end to end, and thousands more across the nation. We are in every county of the Bay Area. We work where we're invited, across public and private lands, across farms and ranches and forests and people's backyards, as well as open space preserves, local, state, and national parks to get conservation done. And this idea that I could help people help the land, that I could help the land by helping people, and that I could help people by helping the land, was a revelation to me. And to this day, it's extraordinary to me, and is why I'm still doing this same work in the same place 18 years later. And I'm pinching myself that this is what I get to do every day. If any of you see my social media profiles, it's kind of sad how much I post about work. I don't have a lot of boundaries around it because I don't want to. The Bay Area and California and the planet cannot address the existential crises of climate change and species extinction without all of these people, all of you, all of us. And hey, Bay Area folks, this includes Republicans. And when we come together, across political parties, across conservation and working lands. What does it look like? It looks like these recent accomplishments for our RCD. Endangered salmon can complete their ancestral migrations and spawn another generation when we remove dams and rivers run free. Thriving populations of pollinators support habitats as well as agriculture. Farms and ranches work with nature to draw greenhouse gases down from the environment, or from the atmosphere where they're detrimental, and store them in rich soils that are literally at the root of our ecosystems. Restored habitat gives threatened and endangered species like these guys a fighting chance to survive. And turns out when we restore nature's ability to do its work, it reduces the risks from natural disasters, from flooding to drought to wildfire that affect our human communities. And put it all together, and what do you get? You get resilience. Now, I'm not a biologist or a hydrologist or a forester or an agronomist or a soil scientist or an engineer or an equipment operator that knocks down dams. I do, however, have an uncanny ability to attract good people and weave them into conservation. That's my superpower. There are a few RCD staff here today. Y'all tried to hide in the front top row. Can you stand up? Come on. Thank you. These guys are the conservation heroes. These guys are the heroes that actually do the work that I'm talking about. And my mama posse that's sitting up there. All the times that you picked my kids up or dropped them off and welcomed them into your homes, and in so many different ways made it possible for me to focus on conservation, you're conservation heroes. And Brian, my beautiful husband, who supports every aspect of my career, the crazy hours, some pretty outlandish decisions that I make all the time. You're a conservation hero. And my personal conservation heroes that I turn to for advice and wisdom, the most top-notch people in this field from whom I'm constantly learning, Sharon Farrell and Jim Robbins. No one in this world can bring people together to collaborate around a vision of landscape stewardship like Sharon Farrell. And no one in this world can get a complex, high-priority restoration project in the ground like Jim Robbins. I learn so much from you every day. Oh my gosh, you're sitting together. Oh, I was like, Jim's not here. I'm so sad, but okay. So, Cricket, when you're going through a tough spell, and I ask if you need forest time, invariably you say yes, and we go have an adventure. And you have such wisdom and intuition to know the medicine that nature offers you, and you remind me of that truth. And Spider, you are my modern-day Charles Darwin. As you stay up to watch the nocturnal drama unfold of predators in a pond at night when we're backpacking, or when you make us late because you have to run around the edge of every parking lot looking for lizards, you're both my heroes too. And I want to thank you both for inspiring me and keeping me on this path, because I want you and your friends, those are your kids and all of your kids, to be part of a future that has wild rivers, rich soils, historic populations of salmon, choruses of frogs, and the hush of redwood forests. You give me hope. And in case anyone here is hiring the next generation of conservation scientists, Spider has been mapping colonies of native and invasive ants in our backyard, and he's looking for a summer job. Thank you.